My background's interior design. I also got my real estate license and started selling homes. I grew up in the Deep South. Just in case you couldn't guess that, I grew up in the Bible Belt. But unfortunately, there was no Bibles that were ever opened in my home until my grandmother took me to church. At age 10, I gave my life to Jesus Christ. I had gotten married at 18, and 22 years clicked by pretty quickly. And I found myself in the throes of a divorce. I was still single after 7 years. I went to my church one day and got on my knees with a counselor and said, I just don't know why I feel so lonely. After I'd prayed that prayer with that counselor, about 6 months later, I was on an airplane going down the aisle. I had all the books in my hand. They were flying all over the plane. And this gentleman across the aisle said, what in the world is all that you've got? I said, oh, these are books on how to find love and keep it and how to meet the man God has for you. I'm getting married. And I remember Joe looked at me and he said, who's the lucky man? And very bluntly, I just said, I don't know, I haven't met him yet. We got back to Texas and he kept calling and I kept fixing him up with my girlfriends because I knew it couldn't be the man that God had for me. And then one day I realized that I had fallen in love with a man named Joe, whose heart was bigger than the state of Texas. So I was married 2 years later, and I had the world by the tail. We both played golf, we bought a home in Arizona, we had a home in Texas. Life couldn't have been any better. And that's when the rug kind of fell out from under me. I was in a golf tournament here, Joe was in Texas, and I found out through the marshal at the golf course that I needed to come back in, that there'd been an emergency in Texas. My husband had an aneurysm. I got on the next plane back home just in time to say goodbye. And I remember just crying so hard and saying, Joe, you're not going to leave me. You can't leave me. I lost my mom, my dad. You've got to stay. But God saw it a different way, and God took him home. And during that time, I had a lot of private time spending it with God and praying. Joe and I had bought a home in Scottsdale, and I decided to move here full time. And that's when I found Scottsdale Bible. What a wonderful church, and what a wonderful answer to prayer. Came in that Sunday, heard that choir sing, and when Troy gets up with that quartet, I want to just pay him extra money to keep on singing. I love it. I love it. God led me here without a doubt. And I know now that God's leading me to give more of my time to this church and its ministry. When Jamie got up one day and started talking about Compelled by Grace, I felt such a tug on my heart to give to the church, but I didn't know how I would ever do that. And I didn't know where the money was going to come from. And then a friend from the church called me and asked me if I would list her house. We didn't get our asking price, but fortunately we got thousands of dollars above the asking price. Now that's another miracle of God, because you see, the extra money that God brought in that contract paid for her pledge to Compelled by Grace. And that contract was almost the exact penny that I wanted to give to Compelled by Grace. I am so thankful for this church. I'm thankful because you are my family. I am so blessed. And through it all, the up times, the down times, I found one thing to be true. God never left my side. As long as I looked up and not around at my situation, God used it in a mighty way. My name's Diane Bearden, and this is my story.